We are just getting cooking. Everybody, welcome in. If you're watching live, I'm Tiffany Harlick, and my friend Jess Janda is here with us today. I am just getting us up and live on all of the platforms. So if you want to take a few breaths with us while we're getting started here. And we look good. So if you are on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, you should be able to access this live. And if not, it'll be left up for later. But all that tech stuff aside, I am so glad to hang out with you today, Jess. I'm really excited to learn from you and just share some of the knowledge that you have from your health journey, from my health journey. And we are here today to talk about cortisol and intuition. So that is the topic. I'm going to go ahead and start our share. But Jess, would you introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Tiffany, I'm so excited to be here with you today. I think this topic is so relevant in today's world. What we're going to be talking to you about is how cortisol impacts your ability to trust your intuition and trust your decisions, right? And I think a lot of people feel disconnected from their body and their ability to do that. And so how do we support our body to be able to drop into our intuition? And also, how do we support our body's ability to keep our cortisol balanced? And so I'm super excited about this topic because, again, it's just really relevant. So a little bit about me. Gosh, I have been in the health and wellness space for over 15 years. I've worked with almost 9,000 clients at this point. And, it wasn't until about 6 years ago that I hit my own health roadblock. And maybe some of you can relate. I was doing all of the things, eating well, meditating. I had quit drinking alcohol. And I know we'll kind of talk a little bit about that because Tiffany and I share that journey together. So I did a lot of things to really prioritize my health, sleep, taking good quality supplements, but I hit my own wall. And what for me, it started to manifest in ways that kind of scared me. I really started to see some cognitive decline. I couldn't remember what I walked into a room for. My husband would say things like, "Don't you remember having that conversation? Don't you remember talking about this?" And I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, no." That really started to scare me. So it was cognitive decline, memory loss, brain fog. So those were the main things. And then, I had this really overwhelming sense of fatigue. Come 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was on my couch. I'm looking at it right over there because I used to hide on it and just check out for a couple hours. And then come at night, I was wired. And that started to affect my sleep cycle. And I started to think, oh my gosh, I can't sleep at night. Then just thinking about not being able to sleep would affect my whole day. It just triggered the snowball of things in my body. And then it started to manifest anxiety and depression and weird autoimmune skin issues. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so that really opened the pathway for me to look for the root cause of what that was. And a lot of it had to do with what we're going to talk about today with the cortisol and the stress response. Another big component was the gut brain axis and getting that recalibrated. So we're going to talk about all of these pathways to help your body manage stress, to be able to fire on all cylinders, and so that you can feel good in your body in this lifetime, right? Because you want to show up and live fully, right? That's the main thing. We can't go through life clouded. We want to be there. We want to be able to be present, be alive. And so that is a little bit about my journey. There's a lot more to it, but I want to jump into, our topic for today. And Tiffany, I'd love for you to share your health journey, because it's, again, you and I have come back together on these health journeys over the years. And it's just, wow, really, really cool and timely.
Yeah, of course. It's so wild. I met Jess when we were both still actively drinking. She had a cool lake house, a big boat. We had a lot of fun. And over the years, we have both quit drinking. We both met back up, and we've always met in that kind of Virgo space. Jess is a Virgo. I have Virgo midheaven of health and healing and wellness. I have a master's in health psychology, and I'm always curious about the connection between this mind body health, and this is something that I've been passionate about for my whole life. And so I love, this, that we have that friendship, that where we can talk about health and grow and just be honest, even though you're doing all the things right, even though you're good girling, even though I'm going to yoga, even though I'm drinking my water, even though I'm doing meditation, even though I'm being of service, even though I'm vegan, I'm not vegan, I'm, all of the things that you try, and you're still having health issues, and you're a leader in the industry, it's hard, And so there's not another box to check. And so I had hit my wall. I had hit my wall in February this year of 2024. And that's when I reached out to Jess, because I had, a health problem for a couple of years, and I wasn't being believed. And I don't know if any of you can relate to that. Have you gone to the doctor and they just don't believe you? You know something's wrong. They're telling you that there's nothing wrong and you're crazy. That was my story for 2.5 years. And finally, I got my moment in the emergency room to be right. Unfortunately, something was wrong, and fortunately, we had healthcare in place to fix it, to help me. But based on those 2.5 years and the other 40 years of life that had built up so much cortisol flooding, so much stress, so much inflammation, there was a huge moment for me when I started working with Jess to realign things for myself, that I had to relearn what the gut-brain axis was, what the gut-brain heart axis was. And through that process, of changing some of my supplements, actually totally changing my supplement plan. I know I'm not supposed to say this, I'm not a doctor, but I totally quit all of my medication after we switched my protocol, and I feel better than I've ever felt. So some of the benefits just in the first 30 days for me included things like I was sleeping for the first time in my life. I didn't know that you could sleep. I didn't know that you guys all were sleeping out there. I thought that, it was just normal to wake up between 2 or 3, or maybe it was spirit, or maybe I was supposed to be meditating or something like that. And I just rolled with it. And, but I have so much energy that I would stay up all day anyways, right? I would just get that fatigue as well. But in changing my supplement protocol and rewiring my neural pathways, I'm sleeping, right? I have so much more clarity. I have focus. I don't have ups and downs. I am biochemically regulated for the first time in my life. I don't have the bloating and the extra weight, the water weight, things like that. So that is really based on removing all of the cortisol flooding. And so it's an intricate tapestry, our health. And we live in a time where we're really fortunate. We have access to a lot of different alternative therapies. We have access to some of the best science, the technologies in the herbal system and the natural health communities. And one thing that I love about working with you, Jess, is that you're intentional. And so if you guys are watching today because you have any of those issues, if you are scared because you're forgetting something and you're too young to be forgetting something, if you are, have that brain fog, if you are feeling tired too early in the day, if you have heartburn, was a huge one for me. I couldn't drink a glass of water. I was just thinking, like, I just drink this water like it was nothing. I used to drink water and it would be like acid needles. I couldn't lay down without heartburn, and I don't even have it at all for any reason. Anything I eat is totally fine. I used to be on 2 antacid blockers a day. I'm not. So this stuff is really powerful. I was in a prime position for it to work really well and powerfully for me. And I hope that some of you guys watching will learn something about cortisol and intuition and how the two are connected. And I think we can go into our presentation. Yeah. Okay. Amazing. That's us. And we gave you our stories. And so I'll turn it back to you, Jess.
Thank you for sharing all that you just shared. I love the way you articulate like what you were feeling in your body. I know so many of you can relate to that. And I think, and we'll talk a little bit more as to why you had all of those things and how getting this in balance, everything from the pendulum swings to the reflux to the all of it is related to this. And I think it's so interesting. You'll for all of you listening in, you're going to have some light bulb moments today for sure. So I love to start out with asking, what state do you spend most of your time in? When it comes to your nervous system, you have three states. You have a flow state. You know when you're in it, right? Everything just happens effortlessly, right? The next right thing appears. The person that you're thinking about reaches out. It's just everything. You know when you're in that state, and you're just like, how do I stay here all the time, right? But most of us, and me included, I used to spend most of my time in something called fight or flight. And you know when you're here, everything feels chaotic. You're shaky. Nothing. It's like slamming the square peg into the round hole with everything that you're doing. Right? That's fight or flight. You're short with people you love. You're eating things you know that you're not going to feel great after you eat them. Right? All it cascades all the way through all of your decision making. And so that is a state that, although most of us spend a lot of time there, we really want to be aware of it and move into flow state. That has so much to do with your cortisol. And then there is this freeze state too. And you know when you're here, this is when you shut down. You're like, too much. I'm going to check out, right? We don't often spend a lot of time there. If you do, let's talk. We need to bring you through this ladder and up to flow. But what we're going to really hone in on today is fight or flight and what that does to your body, right? When you're in a constant state of fight or flight, that's when your cortisol is imbalanced, it's elevated when it shouldn't be, and it's causing that whole cascade in your body, and stress triggers that. So let's go ahead and jump to the next slide. So this is where, when you're in a constant state of fight or flight, you are unable to access not only your intuition, right? Because nothing's flowing. You're constantly second guessing your decisions and what you're doing. And if you can relate to this, drop second guess in the comments. I'd love to hear, because I know that when I talk to a lot of women, they don't trust their ability to make decisions. And I know, Tiffany, so many of your clients come to you because they are experiencing something similar, right? They have a big decision they're contemplating and that sort of thing, and you help them drop into their body and access that answer for themselves. Do you want to touch on that? Because I think it's so relevant.
Oh my gosh, of course. I teach intuition, I teach psychic development and spiritual development, and I teach astrology, and all of those things. You're learning about those things because you have questions and you don't trust yourself. You don't trust your answer. So part of my business structure is don't hire a psychic, become one. And so, I have a product called 40 Days of Spirit that walks people slowly through that process. You have to start with the body. And sometimes I get a little nervous because I know that people don't always want to talk about their physical body. They just want to be intuitive. And I have tools and strategies and techniques to help you isolate your senses and help you become more intuitive, but they're not going to work if you can't access those pathways, if you're full of like energetic sludge, right? And so this exactly what you're talking about. I can't believe how clean and clear your abilities can be when that gut brain axis is working and functioning full force. So to me, your body is a temple, and it is the first place that we think about our souls or our spirits as being inside our bodies, and this is our little shell. It's not the case. Our spirit, we're little bodies inside of this big, huge spirit. And so there's a physical and a metaphysical side to you. You can see with your spiritual eyes, or you can see physically in this real world. You can hear something that's an actual sound in the room, or you can hear something that's spiritual, or just the Tiffany jukebox that's playing in your mind, a song that occurs to you. And so this dance, right, between the physical and the metaphysical, you have to have a healthy vessel to access that other state. So that's probably more than you wanted, Jess.
No, it's just so relevant, right? So when you are in a constant state of fight or flight, and you're unable to access various components of your brain, right? Your prefrontal cortex, all of those things, it becomes your body's ability to be able to access those decision making and those regulate, areas of your brain that helps you regulate your emotions. All of that goes out the window. And so what this comes down to is cortisol, right, which is your stress hormone. It's a steroid produced by your adrenal glands. When this is out of balance, you are unable to, respond to stress in a way that's resilient, right? And so this used to be evolutionary, the tiger's behind the, about to attack you or that sort of thing. It was very important to like keep you alive. But now we have all of our needs met. For the most part, we're not like worrying about, that sort of thing. And so, but it is our primary way to manage stress and respond to stress, right? So we want this to be balanced, and we want it to be high in the morning. In fact, high cortisol is good in the morning, right? It gives you energy. It does all the things. It primes your body to be able to function throughout the day, but you don't want it to be high all throughout the day, right? So let's talk a little bit as to why that is. So if you want to, so cortisol helps the body respond to stress by it balances your blood sugar levels. It improves your body's ability to metabolize glucose and your brain's ability to use that, right? It controls your blood sugar. It reduces inflammation. It's like the base of your ability to fight off infections. So when you're stressed, your immune system is not where it needs to be. And that's a lot of times when you get sick, right? That's like a no-brainer. I know when I was in the thick of it with all the mystery health symptoms, and I was going down all the paths, right? I was going down the adrenal fatigue path. I was going down the hormone balancing path. I was going down the thyroid hypothyroidism path. I was going down the cognitive repair path, right? And what I realize now is that they all work synergistically. All of those bodily systems have to be working together in order for all of this to work, right? In order for your cortisol to be able to do what it needs to do to regulate your entire body's stress response. It's like Tiffany said, it's this intricate tapestry, right? It's not just like, one thing doesn't work. It all works together in layers on top of each other. And I know, I'm speaking to the choir here, but when we go and see a doctor, it's really like individual bodily systems, and they don't really look at the whole body as a whole unless you are seeing like a functional type person, right? So when you have excess cortisol, when it's not in balance, this is when you feel like you're in a constant state of fight or flight. So other things that this manifests as is digestive issues. So it's no wonder when somebody stops quickly in front of you in a car and you're like, right, you can feel that in your stomach, right? All of that is in your stomach, right? So if you're constantly in that fear state, then your body's ability to break down processed food, move it through your body, so digestive issues are really high on the list, including reflux. This is one of the highest ones. Constipation might be another one, right? Welcome if that's you. Most of the high achieving, high performing women that I know have lots of digestive issues, including myself, right? I know, Tiffany, you share in this joy as well. One of the other things that was really big for me is obviously fatigue. I mean, like massive debilitating fatigue. And then something that was also really relevant was I had like this really high resting heart rate that wouldn't go down. I was having heart palpitations, blood pressure issues. This also can look like mood swings. For me, it started to show up as anxiety and depression and irritability, although you probably don't want to admit that, but ask the people around you, right? Then the memory and concentration issues are also a big effect of this, because your body's not able to access those components in your brain, those compartments of your brain. And then, it's also really interesting because people can have all of these things, but then the main thing that they're worried about is their weight gain, right? And Tiffany, you and I were talking about this the other day. It's like, oh, you're having all of these other great results, but it's like the weight is still there, right? So it's like we have to balance all of these other things to allow the body, to give it what it needs to release that weight.
So I'm glad we had that little check-in, because I had forgotten all the things that were wrong. I mean, not all the things, but like it was just yesterday that I was like, oh my God, I don't have heartburn. mean, I lived every day thinking that that was just my life, you know, and it wasn't a little bit of heartburn. It was like literal needles. Like it hurt so bad that I was taking 2 to 3 different medications just for that, on top of like the antacids or whatever. And, you know, it's you forget that because you want to lose that little extra bit or whatever, but there were just, like you said, there's all these other things, but sometimes like that weight part is the part that really stands out. Well, it does improve if you're consistent, you know, and if you heal. So yeah.
And cortisol is really, really, it impacts your body's ability to lose that visceral fat, right? It's that belly fat. So again, we have to, give your body what it needs, and then, give it the time it needs to rebalance. A lot of people experience joint pain and autoimmune issues. That was me. I mean, all of these things, I was like, what is happening? I do this for a living. I almost felt like I needed to change careers at this point because I was not in a good place. And you had mentioned the 2-3 o'clock in the morning sleep disturbances. That was me too. And so if you're not sleeping, that also cascades through all different areas of your life. Getting good quality sleep, really prioritizing sleep, giving your body what it needs to be able to relax so that it can sleep, all of the things. So if you're experiencing any of these things, welcome. This is what we're going to break down in terms of what we can do about it. And I just want to stop here and say prolonged fatigue states, for those of you who are watching, the actual live stream, this is really relevant, right? Because fatigue, again, cascades, fatigue states like stress, it really cascades through all other areas of your body. So it can look like the fatigue, pain, poor concentration, irritable mood. And then from that state, it goes to all the other things, right? The mental health component, the fatigue component, the autoimmune component, and the digestive component. So all of these things are related, and that's what we're going to talk about more as to what we can do about them.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, is your cortisol the missing component to you being able to access your intuition? I just want to keep coming back to that because it is the whole reason why we're doing this, is like not being able to trust yourself, right? Not feeling confident in your own decisions. And so what can we do about that? And so there's various pathways we can support in order to keep this balance throughout the day, right? And this is really fascinating. This was all new information to me 6 years ago, which is why I've pivoted from what I was doing before in the health and wellness space over to this, because this is the future of healthcare, really. It's understanding how all of these systems work together and supporting them in that intricate tapestry that you keep referring to, which I love. So the pathways to keep cortisol balanced, and we're going to touch on this in a little bit more detail, and all the nutrients you need to, or that you can add to support these different pathways. So there's something called the gut-brain-heart axis, which I'm going to talk about. If you're new to that concept, it's going to make so much sense, especially if you are on this path of accessing your intuition. Your adrenals, we're going to talk about what we do to support those, your female hormones, and even male hormones. What do we need to do to bring those back into balance? Because out of balance, sex hormones, as they're called, can wreak all sorts of havoc on the body, right? Digestive, if you're not able to break down and absorb nutrients from the food that you're eating, then you have all sorts of other issues, right? So, and that's when the reflux comes in, you're unable to do that. And so that's that one thing with you, Tiff, being resolved, it's going to take some time, but your body's actually able to get nutrients from food again, which it wasn't able to do.
Oh, I can feel it. Like my eyeballs felt brown, and I was like constantly taking, was it glutathione? I was taking the most dose you could. I was getting the IV of glutathione. I was trying to flush stuff out. I wasn't absorbing things. I knew I wasn't absorbing things. And, finally I'm able to. So that part, yes, that part is huge. And I want to underline what you're saying, which is time takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. But my heartburn, I'm pretty sure it did happen overnight. Like there was an immediate shift for me in that category, and it's just staying consistent with it. And I absolutely know when I'm off now, and so it's because I forgot to take, like, I just got off my schedule or something. You said something else and I went on a tangent, so I'm gonna circle back around to it when it comes back up.
Well, and that's all about, rebalancing the pH of your digestive tract too. So
Thanks. Yeah.
that's what that means. And then that allows your body, and it's all your, and I'll just stop real quick on this too, because so many people are like, heal your gut. Right? You
Right.
hear that everywhere. In fact, it's one of the most like Googled phrases, and there's a lot more to it than that, right? It's not just your gut. Like you have a large intestine, a small intestine, an esophagus, a stomach. Like it's a whole digestive tract that has to be supported at various levels, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that now. So let's jump into that.
Okay. Perfect.
So this is so much fun. I knew that when my mentor, crossed my path 6 years ago, and he's like, "Does it feel like your brain is low on cell phone bars?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's exactly how it feels." And if you all knew the paths that I had been down, and I know a lot of you can relate, I multiple candida, Epstein-Barr, celery juice. I mean, I remember sitting out in my yard doing yard work one day in tears as I was listening to the medical medium, going, what is my life come to when I'm listening to a book on the medical medium? I'm not saying he's not whatever. I'm just like, I cannot find answers, and this is what it's come to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just was like, oh my gosh, as I was like buying celery from Costco, and I just, I can't. Yes.
Right. And a lot of people here love the medical medium. So she's not saying it's a bad thing. It's just like after you've tried everything and you get to the end of your rope and all you're doing is drinking celery juice and taking tinctures over and over again, it's like going to the chiropractor last when you should have gone to it first. And there's a frustration. So your frustration may look different. But it's, that feeling when you've tried everything and nothing's working.
Yeah, you're not feeling better. And,
Yeah.
now, so that's the main thing. It's like all of the things you're doing, are you feeling better? So that was kind of a tipping point for me. And I actually had a really dark moment where, I was going through some bouts of anxiety and depression for the first time ever. Like, isn't that funny how life gives you everything that you're judgmental of other people? All of a sudden it becomes your reality. Not that I didn't believe anxiety and depression, not that I didn't believe autoimmune conditions, not that I mean every single thing that I was like, oh, come on, people. Like, we're women born in the United States. We're already a million times ahead of everybody else. And so it's like, yeah, everything that I'm supposed to teach, I'm learning, right? And so when I had that dark day, it was, the doctor saying, I'll do another round of metabolic blood work. If it comes back normal, be prepared to go down the psychiatric route, right? And that was the tipping point for me. And I know probably, Tiffany, you can relate to that too. And if you're on some sort of an antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication, no judgment, I've been on them as well. But that was the next step for me. And then this concept of the gut and the gut-brain axis crossed my path. And that's when my mentor asked, does it feel like your brain is low on cell phone bars? And he really laid out this concept of the gut-brain axis, gut-brain-heart axis. And so you have three brains. We all know about the brain, right? That's the thinking brain, the logical brain, the rational. But you also have a sensing brain, which is your gut. And this is the intuition work, right? It's the heart and the gut that really play into what we're talking about here. It's all of them, but that one, those two in particular. And so because you can sense something in your second brain, your gut, and then your heart is your feeling brain, right? That's where your connection comes from, and it all works together. And all of these things, these three brains communicate via, a intricate tapestry of nerves, right? So your vagus nerve talks from your gut to your brain, through your immune system, through your endocannabinoid system. So all these pathways that allows your gut and brain and heart to talk, they need to be optimized in order for that communication to all happen. And when that's not happening the way it should, it feels like your brain is low on cell phone bars, which is like, yes. So if that's you, we're going to talk about why that is, if you want to hop to the next one.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you do about this? What do you do when you feel like your whole systems aren't in sync? They're not working correctly, right? Well, this comes back to, gut health. And when we say heal the gut, it's actually a lot of things, right? We want to repair the gut lining. So your gut lining is what, when that becomes, porous, if you will, things
Mhm.
get into your bloodstream that shouldn't. They should be going out of your system through your bowels, and instead they're going into your bloodstream, causing inflammatory responses, which then, and insert mystery health symptoms there, right? That
Right.
can manifest differently in you as it does in me. What I think is really interesting is it manifests in a lot of people as food intolerances. All of a sudden, they're like, "Oh, I can't eat watermelon. I definitely can't eat gluten." Da da da. Right? All of the things, but then things start,
And then you get
it,
diagnosed with EBV, and you get like it just amplifies, right?
yeah. So autoimmune,
Hmm.
lots of brain fog, that sort of thing. So we got to give your body, the gut, which is the colon, the nutrients it needs to make sure that gut lining is really not porous. And the next thing we need to do is we need to populate the gut with the strains of bacteria shown to improve mental health, right? So there are specifically sequenced strains to improve GABA transmission, right? 60 to 90% of your neurotransmitters are produced in your brain. When that's not working correctly, it's impaired. Your body's unable to produce those feel good chemicals. And then because they're not being produced, they're not being signaled to your brain. So then you have the anxiety, the depression, the low stress resilience all the time. You're in the constant state of fight or flight because this is impaired, right? Your gut brain, your nervous system is impaired. So hopefully that makes sense. That's a huge aha moment when I was like, oh, you can do something about that. What do you mean? You can do something nutritionally about that. And then once we have the strains of bacteria in there for stress, anxiety, and depression, we can then optimize the communication pathways between the gut and the brain. We talked a little bit about that with the nervous system and immune system. Again, there's really simple nutrients that help that, right? That support that. And then we do one more layer on that to sync the the heartbeat or the heart signaling with the brain waves. And again, this just helps with, anxiety and, a lot of people with panic attacks. It's misfiring, right? It's not synced
Yeah.
correctly. So this is a huge foundation here, right? This is the foundation of like being able to regulate your cortisol and access your intuition, gut, brain, heart access. Let's go to the
Perfect.
next one. Yeah,
I
this is
want to pause for a second because we're getting some questions on Instagram
oh,
about like how do we relate this to astrology. So I just want to comment that Jess and I did another episode on Mercury and the nervous system, and so all of this is related in medical astrology. It's a whole separate masterclass. It's a whole separate topic to bring the full potential of medical astrology into this, which I would love to do with you guys. If you guys want to keep talking about that, for sure. But what the nervous system is and what the nerves and the neural pathways that we're trying to rebuild and reform, that's all related to Mercury. So right now, as we're recording this, okay, so it's going to be different depending on when you watch this, but as we're recording this, we're leading up to a Mercury Uranus conjunction where I feel, and it's on fixed star Algol. So there is a lot of attention around nervous system health, things getting super inflamed. Inflammation can occur for many different reasons, but there is absolutely part of the cosmic pathway to trying to understand this right now as we're looking at it from our position on Earth. So each of the body parts has a different planet that is associated with it. And as the planets move and have their sacred geometry in the sky, it has an influence, as above, so below. When the sun moves through the sky and the water comes down, the plants grow. Things that are happening up here affect the things down here, and vice versa. And the observer affects the experiment. So I just wanted to address that question, and thank you for being brave to ask it. So I really appreciate it. And yeah, we can totally talk more astrology, but let's do adrenals, our adrenals next. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, everything is related. It's all interconnected, and that is just a good reminder. So, some nutrients to support your adrenals. Some of the things that I really like is ashwagandha. That's a really great herb to
Mhm.
support mood and focus and stress management. and mental clarity. Some of the ones you might have heard of ashwagandha, right? Like a lot of people talk about that and use that herb, but some other ones that you might not know about that are game changers, like literally like off your rocker game changers, are kana. This actually lowers your cortisol response, elevates your mood and mental clarity, and decreases anxiety. So that might be a new one for you. Rafuma, this is a great one because it regulates serotonin and reduces stress in your body, right? Big helpful in all scenarios. You're welcome, right? When I add these components to my body, I'm like, you're welcome to anybody who has to interact with me, right? Magnolia bark, this is another really great one. It supports adrenal function, right? So this promotes calmness without any sort of drowsiness. And again, these are all herbs and nutrients to support your stress response and your body's ability to regulate cortisol. So hopefully these are helpful to you. And then let's talk a little bit about hormones, right? And I'm going to, there's male and female hormones. I'm going to speak to the female hormones on this one. When you hit your late 30s, right? This is when hormones start to go like this. They start to fluctuate.
Or if you drink a whole lot and then stopped, your hormones are going to be out of whack, right? So that's another, like, there's also environmental factors. Sometimes your hormones are affected much earlier. So I just wanted to interrupt. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And especially for those who might be reducing their alcohol or even have quit, your gut needs to be repaired after that. I know when I was about 3 years into sobriety, that's when I hit all of these mystery health symptoms. And there was no one there to say, hey, you've done several decades worth of, I don't want to say damage, or you've ingested this substance for several decades. What do you need to do to repair your brain and body after that, right?
It's not enough to just stop, right?
No, that's why you see people in recovery eating sugar, and it's this, and having to get on psychopharmaceuticals. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but at least give your body the nutrients it needs to be able to fire on all cylinders first, and then see how you're feeling and if you still need support, right? So your female hormones start to fluctuate very early on. I don't think people know that. I know this has been my own journey as well, where it's like, wow, that happened a lot quicker than I thought in terms of age. So you're going to want to add some nutrients in, and of course get your hormone levels checked, right? Get your testosterone, your progesterone, and your estrogen, and your DHEA checked, right? And make sure, and especially do it now if you're not having any symptoms, because once they start falling off the cliff, meaning they stop producing, you're going to want to have a baseline to check them at, right? And some of the nutrients that I love to bring those female hormones back in balance is wild green oats, right? This supports mood and blood flow and just libido in general, right? Shatavari is really good. This supports hormonal balance. It supports mood. Again, that's where we're really kind of bringing that into like your cortisol and stress. And then fenugreek, this is hormone balance, and again, libido, which falls off the cliff. And so mental clarity, muscle tone, weight gain, mood, all these things start to fluctuate when your hormones aren't in balance. So I love these 3 herbs for that. So that is female hormone herbs. And what is next?
Sorry, I was answering a question on Instagram. We're going to do metabolic processes and digestion next.
Okay, great. Because this is, I love to end on this because, while a lot of people have all these other symptoms that they're experiencing, right? Like for me, I couldn't remember what I walked into a room for. I was on the couch at 3 p.m. I was wired and tired all the time, right? I was like, it felt like my body was like on a slight, like, electrocuted state. I don't know how to say that any differently, right? It was like this low, just this energetics that were going through me. And then, but where we do see it is outside with our weight gain. And we're like, oh, but that's what we want to, that's what we want to address. And it is important because when your blood sugar is out of balance, when your adrenals are out of balance, when your cortisol is out of balance, right? This is where you do get the belly fat. This is where you do stress eat. This is where you do all of those things that lead to this. So what can you do? And we talked about this briefly, because you have the really, really, really severe acid reflux. We can rebalance the body's ability to break down and absorb nutrients from food. That is different than the gut. That is the upper GI tract, the stomach, the esophagus. We do that by rebalancing the pH levels there, right? And so that's huge and once that happens, a lot of times that leads to weight loss, right? Because things are able to then move through you more. It helps with constipation. And then we also have strains of bacteria, and this is a real game changer, especially with the GLP-1s that are out there now. A lot of people are using pharmaceuticals to kind of switch the signaling in your brain. But there's ways to do this from a bacteria strain perspective as well. So there is a really great combo of probiotic strains that actually recalibrate appetite signaling, that reduce inflammation and bloat, that help your body to release that fat and weight and improve sleep quality, right? So, and I'll just end here with, you have to match the probiotic strain to the health outcome you're looking to achieve, right? So if you have acid reflux, then, you need probiotic strains and support for that. If you have, cortisol that's out of balance, it's probably a layered approach with a lot of the things we've talked about, but there's probiotic strains for that. If you want to address weight loss, there's probiotic strains for that. So we want to layer that based on the health outcome you're looking to achieve, right? And it's probably a combination of a lot of them, but that's what we want to do. So how do we do that? We have a simple protocol that we have put together. I have used this protocol now with over 7,000 people, and it is turnkey, right? It does all of those things. It balances the cortisol, it rebalances the gut, brain, heart axis that we talked about, right? It rebalances the heart waves to the brain waves, right? The heart rhythm to the brain waves. It brings your hormones back into your natural balance. It helps with the assimilation of food and digestion, and then recalibrates your appetite signaling and metabolic response. So it's a simple turnkey protocol. It, again, just gives your body everything that it needs to be able to be its own internal pharmacy and work as designed, right? When we feed our body the right nutrients, it's able to function as designed. But those optimal levels, they go up and down. And so we have to then provide the nutrients to bring them back in balance. So I hope this was helpful. And Tiff, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Oh my gosh, for sure it was helpful. I'm so excited to be able to share this and feel good. I felt so bad for so long, and I overperformed for so long. And I know that you guys are out there doing the same thing, where you're feeling terrible, but you still have to get up and do the thing and grind and hustle. And I just am so glad that we're able to talk about it while I feel good. Like, my skin's clear. I slept last night. I'm emotionally neutral with things that I used to not be. And there's so many more benefits to getting cortisol, getting all of those gut brain axis hormones, adrenals, all of those balanced out. There's just so much more benefits than what we're saying here. I wanted just to tell you guys what I take personally. I have it listed on the intuitionprotocol.com, but just looking at this, what I will not live without is the digestive and the ignite. Now, all of it's important, but those two things, and it's not like I'm addicted and it's my lifeline, but it really is my lifeline. Like, I really feel significantly better. And I notice when I'm not taking those two things, they're very important to me and my system. You might have some different ones. But what I do in the morning is I wake up, I take a GBX Fit, that small purple bottle on the right. They're really cute. They're purple. And I drink a full glass of water. So the GBX Fit on an empty stomach with a glass of water. Mid-morning, I'll do Happy Juice, which we'll have to tell you guys about. If you've heard about Happy Juice, let us know. I think, Jess, you're maybe drinking one of yours right now. But mid-morning, I do a Happy Juice, which is not part of the Intuition protocol, but something I highly recommend. And then when I'm doing, let's see, the Menta Sync and the Menta Heart probably like around brunch time when I'm eating food. And I'm also taking a digestive. And then at night, I'm taking the Ignite. So before I go to bed, I'll take 2 of these Ignite. It's really important to my sleep. It's really important to how I wake up. And how I wake up is like a mental state, is what I'm talking about. When I wake up in the morning, I know whether I've taken it or not, because either I'm like really on edge and really concerned, or I just wake up and I'm so glad to be alive and it's a new day and the sun's rising. It's a huge difference in my system. So for me, yeah, that's what I do. And then I didn't talk about mood, because mood is it's what they call yoga in a bottle. And so mood I only take when I feel on edge, or when I'm feeling upset about something, or when I'm trying to calm down from a situation. I'm not using it every day personally. Some of my friends and colleagues do use it every day. But it is a great blend, and it absolutely helps get regulated, biochemically regulated. And from that place, from that place of biochemical regulation, your whole life just starts to become in flow. For me, when I'm in flow, I'm like able to just move through life without bracing against it, without worrying about anything, without living in the past or the future. And it's just such a nice place to be. And yes, meditation helps. And yes, still go to your yoga classes. And yes, stay hydrated. And also, if you're investing in your health, if you have a budget for your health and you have an extra couple $100, right? This is going to help you. And I know that this price sometimes fluctuates because of the specials that the company has. But I want you to also know that I have so much confidence in this company because Jess helped found it. Jess has been there from the get-go. And so the product integrity is there. The quality is there. It really works. And you have to be consistent. So if you're going to try this out, or any portion of it out, please be consistent. Do yourself the favor of just trying it every day, one day at a time for 30 days, and then another 30 days, and then another 30 days. So if you can do this consistently, there's no way you're not going to have a result. And so I just thank you, Jess, for bringing this to my attention at a really critical time in my life. And I'll leave you guys with this screen. I'm Tiff at tiffanyharlick.com, and you can find this protocol and my health story, which is a little bit more intimate than what I shared online. And it's at the intuitionprotocol.com. And anything else that is on your mind before we close?
Thank you so much for having me. And if anybody listening has any questions, feel free to reach out to Tiff or to me, and we can talk in more detail about your individual, things that are going on in your health. And we're happy to help, point you in the right direction. Because again, when everybody is regulated, we are just much better as a species, right? So our goal is to help you get regulated so you can trust yourself, tap into your intuition, and show up fully to all the things and all the people that depend on you, including yourself. So thank you so much, and I look forward to meeting you all.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Jess. And here's to your intuition and reducing cortisol out there, guys. I love you so much.